Welcome to Advantage. I'm your host, David Young, and I hope you have had a great week. You can see, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my friend Brian Buffington. I'm going to introduce him in a second. We're so excited about him being here. But if you're listening today, I just want to let you know I hope the last week has gone well for you. The last episode I did was with my friend Maggie Hartledge. And that episode has really blown up. It's about behavior management. And that's something that we all are, trying to figure out in our schools and in our districts. But I mentioned on that one that I would not have a podcast episode last week because I was going to New Orleans. So I want to let you know I did go to New Orleans. I had a great trip. The first time I've only been to New Orleans one other time, and it was 30 years ago. And so I had some cool things. I got to go back to a restaurant that my great uncle recommended that I go to 30 years ago. It was still there. And that was really cool. New Orleans is kind of known for its food, and I happen to really like food. So while I was down there, I went around and tried, things like seafood gumbo and cheese grits with bacon bits and chives in them. I ate. I went to the Cafe Du Monde and ate beignets. I had a piece of king cake. It did not have a ring or a baby in it, so I don't know. Maybe that was bad luck, but it was really good. So I did all the things when it came to food. And the conference was the National Organization for Student Success, NOSS, mostly higher ed folks. It was really interesting. I presented at that conference. It was really interesting to get to hang out with an educator crowd, but a little different educator crowd that I'm used to in the K-12 space. I really made some good connections there. So just want to let you know, New Orleans was great last week. I'm actually going back there next week for AASA. And so anyway, I'll fill you in on that story when I get back. So today's episode is about artificial intelligence. And I've been really excited about this. I wonder where you are in your journey with AI. For me, maybe like many of you, it started with just downloading Chat GPT on my phone. And this has been a little while ago. This was, maybe a week or two after Chat GPT came out. And I just get very energized and excited when I play around with AI. I do some things with it, but I swear, even now, I feel like I am just scratching the surface. I'm trying some new things. I'm learning some more things that ChatGPT will do, but then there are all these other, uh, like Gemini and some of those others that are ChatGPT like. They'll do some things, but also, tools like Canva have AI elements, and I've played around with that. There's an app called Suno that I believe my friend Brian here maybe introduced me to that will write music. You tell it what you want it to write music about. You tell it the style of music, and it creates some unbelievable songs with it. And so I've been playing around with that. But the journey really, I believe, is just getting started. I'm getting better and better at it all the time, but it's going to be a process. So there's a lot out there that you can have fun with, but there's also a lot that you can use to be more effective personally and professionally, and to be more efficient with your job as well. So I'll kick it off today by just saying I wonder how AI is going for you. That's a little update on how it's going for me. So today's episode is specifically for educational leaders like you, and it focuses on how to use AI to do your job even better. Now, when I say better in air quotes, what I mean is to make you more efficient, to make you more streamlined, and uh, hopefully result in better outcomes for you. Notice that I didn't say easier because all of our jobs are so big. I do think AI can make elements of your job easier, but we all have really big jobs. So I think as you go into using AI, I wouldn't go into it with my priority being make my life easier, but make me better, produce better outcomes, make me more efficient, make me more streamlined, make me more effective. And then if it makes parts of your job easier, I believe that is icing on the cake. But that's just coming from me. I'm going to be interested to hear what my friend Brian thinks about that as well. So, with that, my guest today is Brian Buffington. Brian is an expert in many things, but among those, educational technology and artificial intelligence. Now, Brian has been on the podcast before. Um, I went back and listened to the episode again. I told him I got such a kick out of it because we had a really good time that day talking about professional development and making learning fun. He told a really funny story about the Cabbage Patch Hospital.
Oh
I
yeah.
won't tell that. I won't tell that story again, but it's a good one. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. But Brian and I have been working together off and on for a few years now. Really appreciate him, and he's going to be a keynote speaker this summer at our Central Kentucky EduCon at Eastern Kentucky University in Richmond, Kentucky. Brian's one of the most entertaining trainers I've ever been around, but he's not just fun. His stuff is rooted in great content that helps teachers and administrators do their jobs well. And even though we're talking about artificial intelligence today, I mentioned professional development. He's great at that. Not the last episode, but the one before that, I was talking about professional development and how to make it meaningful and how to help it stick with teachers. So you can bet before we get to the end of the day, I'm going to ask him to weigh in a little bit on PD and some tips that he can give us for making PD exciting and impactful for all of us. So with that, Brian Buffington, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, it's good to be here, David. Now, and I do believe in this. This may be too soon, but I believe we need a moment of silence because I got some news
Okay.
about KFC
Ooh.
and how because that's your home base and how
Yeah, Kentucky.
they're
Yeah.
trying to leave Kentucky. And I have strong feelings about the original recipe, and I've been to the museum, and I just don't know. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I can go on like that Celine Dion song.
Listen, I heard of all places. Are they thinking about moving to Texas?
Yeah, this has plenty. They don't need Kentucky chicken. They've got their own thing.
Where they could have Texas fried chicken, TFC.
True. Yeah.
I hope they don't change it to that.
Yeah. All right. My sadness is done. I'm ready to be excited again. So I'm guessing that Kentucky will find a place to fill the void. Things are going to be fine, David.
We will. We're resilient around here, especially with our fried food. We'll be okay.
Love it, man. We got plenty of fried food in Georgia. Hey, here's the number one question I ask administrators when we talk about AI.
Yep.
What would you do with any time that you could save, any time energy you could save by using artificial intelligence? And just like a good Family Feud question and answer board, the number one response is I would be out of that office and I would be with other breathing human beings that I care about.
Yep.
Ding, 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 ding. That's it. And
Yep.
that's, you know, that's, I got, we kind of shared some notes about what we want to talk about today. And that was just kind of on my heart, on my mind. And really, how can AI help us make our schools, our districts the place to be?
Yeah.
And that's part of the keynote. The keynote that I get to kick off one of the days at your event is really about the question of why come to class, why come to a PL, and I do believe AI can help us create some time and create some magic. I'm all
Mhm.
about a little bit of magic. Call it buff
Oh,
magic sometimes. Um, to say, you know what, you had to be there to experience, and if you just got the presentation, it's not as good. You
it's
know.
true.
So
Well, and I'll see if you agree with this statement. I believe, we were in education pre-pandemic, and it was important back then to make learning engaging and make whether that was student learning or adults learning, those things were important. But I think post-pandemic, it's well, if you just look at absenteeism rates, post-pandemic, students are absent more often and teachers are absent more often.
mhm.
Everybody is a little bit more likely to take a day off. And so, I really like that you're thinking about it through that lens of, why should I not miss? Because people also have fear of missing out, right? That's a thing. And so we, maybe we can play on that fear of missing out. Like if you miss school, you are likely to miss this awesome thing that we're all talking about the next day. And I think AI can help with that.
Yeah, AI is great at a lot of things, but there's something powerful about human connection. Just yesterday I did something crazy, David, and this is a buff nugget for your administrators. That is probably like one of the number one AI nuggets that I share with them and teachers, and that is we're using AI to create experiential opportunities in classrooms and in professional development
Yep.
by making skits, personalized skits. And I can't remember if this may have been after I got to see your crew last time, but man, last night I was working with Canadians. Like, yeah, I get to work with Canadians. They were awesome. And it was, by the way, there's a time zone more east than the Eastern time zone. I didn't know this until recently. The Atlantic time zone. And David, we did PL. Their time was 7 to 9 p.m. on a Zoom, a Google Meet, and we made a custom AI generated skit, and it was like the Brady Bunch squares all on my Zoom thing. I got to see all my people, and we made this personalized skit, and it was about conflict resolution. So we're talking about admins, we're talking about AI. How do we use this to create something better than we had before? And so we talked about the scenario was there's a teacher and she's stealing stuff out of the school teacher workroom fridge, and we specified what kind of food it was. We mentioned a local restaurant that was in their town in near Nova Scotia. So we personalized it and we made references to Bryan Adams lyrics because Bryan Adams is
Canadian.
Canadian. And we made this skit. It's about conflict resolution because that's a thing that admins have to work with, and teachers as well. And they acted it out live on the Zoom. It is 8 o'clock at night. They've already been teaching all day, and every single eyeball was on them. There were constant little hands going up, little virtual like acknowledgments and going, "You're awesome. I loved it." Just a lot of love, and it just confirmed again, like how that we could use these tools to make more human connection and just in a way that we could. I can't write skits that fast. I can't write a
Right.
skit that fast. And plus, we crowdsourced it, which is another buff nugget that people aren't thinking about. Is I get other people involved in the AI process live, so we make something together, and then I hit the button, and so you got some input in it, David. Everybody got some input, and it was a straight up hootenanny up in Canada, and I think the Mounties were going to find me. They're like, that's just way too much fun here, and it was awesome, man.
Man, that sounds really fun. And so it makes me think about as our principals who listen to Advantage, you got your staff, and you're giving a virtual example from Canada, but you have PLCs going on a weekly basis. You have a staff meeting, you have professional learning days. Most in Kentucky, most districts do 4 professional days, so 24 hours of a PD.
Hmm.
In a summer, you've got all those opportunities for you to learn together. Um, but for you to be able to crowdsource and do something like that that's engaging and fun and connecting, man, what a great use of your time to start to create uh, a particular climate that you want your
There you go.
building to have that eventually becomes the culture of just how we do things. I can imagine, if I'm the school leader and we're doing that things like that on a regular basis, it don't take a lot of time, but are fun and engaging. What's the likelihood that my teachers then start doing some things like that with their kids? It's highly likely.
Yeah, that is for the administrator to model, and that's tough because a lot of administrators, you leave the classroom, you come into the administrator role, and you got to do administrator things,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes those classroom things are put not because you wanted to, but because you felt like you had to. They're put on the back burner, and we kind of lose our mojo. But you get to bring the mojo back. You get to share something innovative and helpful and inspiring to your teachers. And like, so we have, by the way, it's a couple wins here. The teachers are learning something awesome from you. They're actually getting to participate live with you. And also you're getting credibility as a instructional expert and innovator.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge. And so I wanted to ask you, when you think about leaders using AI, like when I think about using AI myself, I sort of run it through a lot of different filters, or I view it from a lot of different lenses. I view it from the lens of, like I mentioned earlier, maybe making me more effective or me more efficient with my time. Um, Sometimes I think about it from the standpoint of just, I've got to stay up with this, or if I don't, it's going to get so far out ahead of me I'm going to be missing out on something that I really should be as the leader, exposing my staff to. And then you just added another lens that I hadn't thought about, was human connection and togetherness and climate and culture. I'm big on instructional leadership. That a tool like the one you just described could be used in instruction to deliver content and help make learning. You've heard me talk about making learning episodic. I think that's a big deal, to make learning, episodes. So anyway, I just say all that to say, when you are thinking about AI for leaders, what are some of the purposes that you think maybe have the biggest return on investment for why you should invest your time learning about AI?
I think more than ever that teachers, leaders need to be as relevant, and we need to be very, very current. And that is an issue, because we have all these mandates, and we have many things at the state level, federal level, that we must accomplish. But it takes so long for those things to change and evolve. It's like turning the Titanic around. That thing takes forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we know about AI, we know about its power, and we can talk about it now. We have high school students right now who desperately need to know not just how to write essays by clicking a button. That's the number one fear by everybody, but they need to know, how do I use this ethically, strategically? Because when I get to college, it's going to help me rock and roll by maybe using a program called Notebook LM that's made by Google, which is like my number one most request TRL, totally requested AI tool that people want help with, is because it's like your own notebook of your stuff, and you get to put all your professor's things in this one folder in your notes, and then use AI to help you make sense of it all and to create fresh content. And I think keeping up with this I think it's vital.
Mm-hmm.
This is different. Okay, let's say it this way: the last technology, you know, wave that we got that was this big was going to be, I would think, when we had the introduction of the smartphone or the
Yeah.
iPhone. Okay,
Yeah.
and so that was 2007. Before then, I'm going to say it was probably the internet. So the
Yeah.
internet, the iPhone, and now consumer access to AI.
Yeah.
And so you get to be ahead of it. As an admin, you get to be ahead of it and use it to make human connection, but also to be more efficient.
You know, I think about back when the iPhone came out. I wasn't one of the early adopters of the iPhone, but my closest friend that I worked with was. And I remember him, he would come in, he got the iPhone, and he would come in and he was showing me how you could scroll, and
It was
you
crazy.
know, it was just crazy what he was doing. And he said, man, this thing will change your life. He said, it will absolutely just change the way you think and live and work. And of course, at that time, I mean, he was totally right, but we didn't really even know how right he was.
Yeah.
But I will say, I felt like with the iPhone, not that they didn't enhance it, they've enhanced it every year since then. But I kind of had time to catch up. Like it took me maybe a year before I got rid of my flip phone, and then I got an iPhone, and the new iPhone was as much like the original iPhone that I could kind of I could kind of get caught up. It
Hmm.
feels like with AI, it's accelerating so rapidly. It feels like it's accelerating more rapidly than the iPhone is. I don't know if that's true or if that's just my
No, I think you're
perspective.
right. I do think you're right. And but I also want to um I don't know, I want to put my arms around all your listeners right now who may not feel like they are at par with all this AI stuff and
Mm-hmm.
apps. You know, just getting started with a tool like ChatGPT, like that, just getting like you could get started today, and not feel like you're behind. Yes, there are a lot of tools, and that's what I do for a living. But that is administrators. You have to do many things. But you just need to be aware of it, how it works, the basis, and then just level up each year, whatever your level is. My whole thing is, you know, that's why I go to events. I get to come back to Kentucky because there's always a new level to get up to. But it is fast. It's accelerating very, very fast. David, I just saw Google release. They're about to release this non-beta, but it's Google Studio AI. And what this is as someone who makes tutorials for a living and helps instruct people, what this does is I can actually capture my screen. Let's say I'm in Photoshop. I'm in some software. It'll capture my screen and I can have a conversation with my mouse cursor and I'm trying to do this and the AI is watching the screen, is watching where I'm putting my cursor. It goes, "Oh, by the way, you need to do this first. You need to do this first before you do this." And so I'm the one who makes tutorials sometimes. So maybe I'm not needed anymore. I'm just playing. It's just like my
Yeah.
job changes. My job is changing and it's fun for me. It's not as scary for some. But there are a lot of other career fields that are changing much faster than mine that it is a little scary for them.
Well, I think there are levels as well. Like, and that's a good thing because it means there are many entry points for a novice user versus a very skilled user. Now, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine that I work with, when he writes, he is very matter of fact. He's not a flowery writer. So when he writes an email to somebody, he knows that sometimes the way he writes will come across as being more sharp or more, whatever, a little more edgy than what he
Yeah.
means to come across. So he uses AI all the time. He will type his email and then he will put it in AI, Chat GPT, and say, make this friendlier or
Make
make
me
this
nice.
you make me nicer, and he puts it in there because he's the nicest guy in the world, but he just comes across as very direct. So he
Ah,
puts it in there, and that, and then he doctors it up. But I want to, and then he sends the email. Works great for him. That's a little tool that he has learned to use that takes care of an area of growth, for him.
hmm.
But I want to add the fact he never puts it in AI and has it translate to friendlier and just copy and paste it. He
Hmm.
always goes back and rereads it and makes sure that it still sounds like him. And that's what I heard when I was at NOSS this past week with the higher ed folks. They are coming around to the fact that kids are going to use AI to help them draft an essay. Some of them aren't crazy about it, but they're coming around to the fact that students are going to do that. So, what's the next step? Well, the next step is now students need to develop this skill that they've never had before, where they know how to input the correct prompt and to word it the correct way and give it some information that it needs to write the draft well.
Hmm.
Then they need to know how to go in and make sure that it's still their work, that they know how to identify bad information because the AI is still not perfect. It may, it has most of those engines have, the whole world of the internet and all the, as we know, everything's true on the internet, right? So there, so
Yeah.
it'll pull some inaccurate information. So it really is just kind of opening up this whole world of new skills that we need to develop as professionals and that our students need to develop before they go on into their careers later on.
Yeah, I see where, and I don't know where this fits in because we talked about the Titanic taking it forever to move and turn around, but I see high schools, at least at the 11th, 12th grade level, there is, I don't know if it's its own class, but it is part of the literature writing curriculum where this is, yeah, we're going to graduate and all my students are going to, understand the ethics of these tools, how to use them for drafting. I use it for writing all the time. And David, my writing, I mean, you get Buff Nuggets. It
Yeah.
is it Buff Nuggets is pretty much like a seventh grade, eighth grade boy writing. It is if it wasn't for my wife, there would be commas. And so the I've been using it because there's things in my brain and I know the words, like I know what I want to say and I can put them down, but it's like there is no way anybody else is going to get this or understand it. I am missing three or four commas, and I'll use it for drafting and for specific things. But I'm still keeping it very Brian. If you read anything from me, you're gonna be like that Brian wrote that. That's obvious, and that's what we can't lose that. We can't lose that humanness. I think there will be more value because a lot of people are going to go all in on this AI stuff and they're going to have it write everything. Everything's going to sound the same. And some people, they're going to stand out because of their imperfections.
Yeah.
And people are like, I want, give me something that's not perfect.
Hmm. Good
Uh-huh.
point.
Give me,
Yes.
give me something that's messy because I'm tired of the shiny egg. I'm like, give me just give me some like gravy that's like going over the bowl. Like that's what I want. Oh, it's like it's making some people uncomfortable. I'm talking about it, but give me some mess because I want to know if this is real.
Yeah. The gold standard at some point becomes authenticity.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yep.
more, like you said, more than just polished perfection because, the AI is getting better and better and better. I mean, there are images now that you can create. I saw one on your newsletter just the other day. It was an image you created, and I mean it was totally manufactured, like it was fabricated. But gosh, it didn't look like it. I mean, so the tools are getting better and better and better about perfection. And so I really like what you're saying there. That probably at some point here the script starts to flip to where if you're the curator, you're appreciating authenticity and some imperfections.
Hey, David, I want to make sure I had a couple things I want to share. I'll make sure I get those because
Yeah,
I've got about I would say probably about 10 minutes or so. So I
yeah,
know we want to talk about professional learning too, but a couple of AI things that I feel like are some special nuggets that your audience would enjoy is the fact that that now we can actually use AI chatbots within our school and district websites that have our calendar. They have the athlete. That chatbot is connected to like certain script language things that your school is like for sure certain all those things, and it's not gonna mess up. I can't say that with 100%, but you know what I mean. It's
yeah.
it's gonna be pretty good. And that when people go and they're like, you know what, I need to call the office, but because I would rather talk to a human. Let's be honest, but also I can't guarantee everybody will have a budget for a human to answer the phone, unfortunately. And that's a whole nother conversation another day. But I could have a chat bot and we call it maybe we can have fun with it, so maybe it's there's the Kentucky Cougars and it's like talk to Charlie the Cougar and that's the chat bot on the school website and it's like, hey, is can my son wear overalls with no shirt at school? And it's like, whoa, hold on, partner. You can't you got to wear undershirts if you're wearing overalls. Come on now, and it's just kind of like friendly and it's fun. We could do that. So that's a thing I was thinking about. I actually
Right.
helped had somebody from an Alaska co-op ask me about that, and I was like, "You get it. You go get it." Another thing was talking about AI, and that's security and safety. So that's a huge thing right now. On
Mhm.
any of the technical world when it comes to schools, is that AI is being used to help keep schools safe. So we have cameras that are maybe analyzing a parking lot, and it goes just looking for nuances. It's looking for something that breaks the algorithm. It's going, no, this is weird. Something is over here, but it's not usually there for like 20 days. But now there's something new over here in the shot, and resource officer, go check that out.
Wow.
And so we're using AI technology in schools to do that. Now there's also privacy issues there that schools have to be comfortable with and have community buy-in. And then here's another thing. I know you, David. I don't know exactly your path as an administrator, but schedules was not everybody's favorite thing. Making
Correct.
schedules
Yep.
and to go in and go, I need a 6 period day, and I need 5 minutes here, and I got to have my buses here, this, and you lay it out. And I need everything perfect with 3 minutes at break and all this. And you hit a button and it makes you the schedule. That is magic. And I've demoed that for a few people, and administrators will like almost pass out. They're just like,
Man,
you just saved me
that's
two days.
fan- that's fantastic. I will say at our cooperative, we have started offering scheduling like consultation because we have a particular lesson structure that we promote, and it requires you to schedule in a certain way.
Hmm.
And there are some very good leaders who aren't great schedulers,
That's fine.
and
Yeah.
yeah, that's okay. That's just an area that they need some support. And we get so many requests for that. So an AI version of that, I didn't know that. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. And so, I get when I get to come to the EduCon. Those are some
Mhm.
nuggets I get to share with. I know we have a mixture of teachers and leaders there, so I can't remember exactly what my breakout was, but depending on what it was, I'll share some of those.
Good. Man, those are some really cool tools. So let me shift you now because I know you can't stay too much longer. Talk to me about professional development. I know there's some overlap here, and I think you listened to my episode, and so I'm in my episode. I'm talking about how to make it meaningful, how to keep it focused and streamlined, how to be streamlined toward a set of agreements, which is so now we kind of have some goals, and we aren't just out doing all kinds of different best practices. We're doing some real purposeful things. But as you listen to that, I know you well enough to that you thought, hey, on top of that, I really would like this and this and this. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, nothing. By the way, I did listen to it because I knew I got. If it's about professional learning and it's from somebody I know, I want to hear about it because
Yeah.
that is that was like probably the number one, um, number one success in my life as an educator was learning how to deliver exceptional professional learning. And nothing flagged me, David, when I was listening to yours. I thought there was some really good stuff in there. I don't have any notes about exactly
That's okay.
the things that I grabbed a hold of, but just for me, I do professional learning probably a different way than most, and that's why I have a platform. And by the way, just because I do it a certain way doesn't mean everybody has to do it like that because that some things just can't be replicated.
Hmm.
And that's I think sometimes we get educators who are in the PL world and they can be discouraged because they have a different set of gifts and talents. But there's plenty of room. There's plenty of room for experimentation and just of you, whatever like your I call it work your quirk.
Yeah.
I got my stickers, I got my shirts, and I think that's important. One of the number one things that really maybe it gets my heart pumping, and that
Hmm.
is when we expect teaching to look a certain way, but PL looks like way different. It doesn't, it doesn't have to look like a kindergarten class. You know, we don't have to give out goldfish to everybody, but teachers still like goldfish.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and what I've learned, David, is audiences of all kinds, leaders, teachers, everybody in between. There is something to say about breaking down walls as soon as possible. And I do that a couple ways, and maybe I'll write a book about it one day. But I do this a couple ways, and that is just doing something that is like those skits. I mentioned
Mhm.
the AI skits. Well, Brian, you said, well, Brian, that's kind of silly. I don't know how much value it, we're talking about some pretty serious stuff. Sometimes I do things that have nothing to do with the content. Yeah, everybody listen to me. Have absolutely nothing to do with the content, just so I can break down some walls and then talk about the content.
Yeah.
I just need some buy-in. I just need I need some trust. I need people to trust each other because I need people talking, I need people moving, and I need people taking chances. And that's my number one thing in PL is how can I get to that point as fast as possible to get people who are exhausted, skeptical, to and some who are happy, they like learning, how to get them to do something that most adults would not want to do by themselves or especially in an audience of people. And so that's kind of how that's a couple of big buff nuggets there when it comes to PL. The first thing someone told me when I did PL for the very first day, I'll never forget it. The very first day I did PL, I was much younger, and I hitched a ride with our fingerprint specialist at my co-op, and we went to this district, and we were talking about smart boards. I had my suit and tie. I was like, "This is how you turn on a smart board. Look at me. I'm a genius. I'm a tech trainer. I've got nothing inspirational for you. I'm just showing you how to turn on a smart board." And it was the worst training ever. And I'll never forget this lady came up to me afterwards. She goes, "Where's the candy?" Like, I never thought about that. But don't forget the candy. Don't I love it when co-ops, when schools, they bring out the red carpet and they make you feel special, make you feel like a professional. Because a lot of schools really, I know there's budgetary restrictions, but roll out the red carpet and make you feel like $1 million as much as possible. That is my number one thing. It's like I have a lot of number one things, David. They're non-negotiable. It's like make people feel awesome, never make people feel stupid. That's the one. That is the biggest one. Do not make people feel stupid. Um, and a lot of PL that does happen. And I've heard the stories, but I know you guys at Skessy. Yeah, I'm the guy who calls who
Jesse.
Skessy. Everybody understands CKEC. Yeah,
Yeah.
Skessy. That's where David works. I say all the letters together, and it sounds great. I know you
Yeah.
guys are.
I like it. And we hear Skessy sometimes, we hear CCAC sometimes,
Ooh,
but I think Skessy's the one that's going to catch on.
I
I
agree.
I feel like it's coming. Hey man, you are all over the place these days. I mean, you are traveling. You mentioned Alaska. You mentioned working with teachers in Canada. Give us a quick update on what all you're doing and some of the places you're doing it.
Oh man, hey, I'll give you the 1 minute Buff Nugget update. So I went solo like Beyonce in July of this past year, and I just said, you know what, the world needs Buff Nuggets, and I couldn't do it at that level. Working at a co-op because they let me do it as much as I could. But I was like, you know what, I need to do it some more, and so I am like it's hard to fathom. I don't know how to say it, David. Like the the response has been so good, so good. I've got and people are hungry for obviously Buff Nuggets, but they're hungry for something that is I gotta say this. They're looking for PL that is engaging, that is relevant, but it's also experiential. People are like, give me PL that's different. Give me PL. Give me a keynote that makes me feel good. And I've been just been awesome. I'm fortunate to travel all across the country and even do Zooms with Canadians and make them do skits about Brian Adams.
I love it.
And and as I close, enjoyed any of the nuggets today, I do have a newsletter. It's called Buff Nuggets. It goes out every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern. And David, if you don't mind, you put it in the notes. And I'd love
I
for
will put it in the notes. And website is Brian K. Buffington,
yes,
correct?
yes, sir. Yeah, briankbuffington.com. And you could see all my testimonies and things there. And I would be honored to talk to anybody about doing PL or speaking at their event.
Awesome. Yeah, get out, follow Brian, and then think about coming to Central Kentucky EduCon, July 11th and 12th. We're going to have two guys from Georgia doing keynote on day one and day two. Day one is Jeff Shepard, who used to play on the University of Kentucky basketball team, has a son who played last
That's
year and
so
is now in
cool.
the NBA. That's cool. He's going to be on the podcast, I hope, as well. And then we have Brian Buffington, also from Georgia, going to be the keynote speaker on day two. So, look up ckec.org/educon, EDUCON, and come out and hear more. Brian's going to be doing the keynote, but he's also doing a breakout session later on in the day. It's going to be a
It's a
lot of fun.
great conference. Great conference. Thank you, David. I do have to run. Thank you for this awesome opportunity to chat with you, man. I'm always inspired by your group. They're still buffifying things. I always love keeping up with them. They're just I love them. I love all your people. Have a good one.
Hey, man, thank you. See you.
Bye.
All right. Well, so that is going to do it for today's episode of Advantage. Appreciate, again, Brian Buffington joining us, and I hope you have a great week. Don't forget, next week I'm back in New Orleans. I'm hoping to put an episode out, but if I don't, I'll get right back to it the following week. In the meantime, don't forget to like and share and rate the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have if you have something you want me to try to eat in New Orleans. Reach out and let me know that. But also, if you have questions or comments or ideas about the show, I'd love to hear from you. So until next time, thank you so much, and have a great week. Take care.